Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 341, a weekly little get together. We talk about recent gaming news. I'm as always your host, Stephen Brandon. Tonight, we have some Suicide Squad games as a service rumors going about there. John Carpenter might have accidentally leaked that there's a Dead Space movie coming, and Starfield might be delayed. Who the hell really knows? All that and more coming up, but first, I want everyone here to know this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching live here at Twitch TV/GamePoints every Tuesday night, or later at any myriad of video hosting platforms, be they YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, etc., feel free to join the conversation with any questions, comments, concerns you might have. Just try to keep the points germane to the conversation. All right, let's go ahead and get right into things with this very first topic. Yesterday, the internet was sent all a flurry from a single screenshot. That screenshot being what looks to be the user interface menu selection part of a early build of Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad, of course, being Rocksteady's follow-up to the excellent Arkham games. First thing that I want to go ahead and mention out the gate is that if this is true, keep in mind this is all technically rumor, although many other sites, including Video Game Chronicle, which is link I'm going to provide down in the story below, so you can go take a look at their story, use some of their information here, are confirming that this is real. If in fact this is real, dear God, does this user interface look like ass? I cannot stand this modern style of just it. Everything about it seems sterile, mechanical, and designed to sell you shit, which will bring me to where people seem to be very upset about. Let's go ahead and just take a closer look at this. By the way, you'll see things like this where it's I got bits scribbled out. You see some of it right here. That's probably so that the tester can hide their identity. Every one of these games have stuff running so that way the person playing it, the machine it's running on, can be identified quickly in case a leak happens. Usually, though, scrubbing out the information like this isn't enough. There are other ways to implant who is leaking what out there, or to figure out who's leaking what out there with implanted code and stuff. But if you're wondering why certain bits are scribbled out, that's why. So let's take a look at this overall thing right here. First of all, the stupid ass message of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, the message of the day in video games is little more than advertisement being sent directly to you for the video game itself, or rather the things they're trying to sell. There's no ever any important information on there. It's just designed to get you to click on something and buy more shit. So already one giant ad out the gate. This is pretty standard stuff right here. One thing to note, it looks like they are running on a PlayStation. As you can see next to it is Captain Boomerang name, and then a PC on those down there. So cross-platform seems to be enabled. This 25 and 12, and then you have 25, 12, 25 and 12, or 26 and 12, 26 and 12, seems to be different levels. I don't know exactly what the differentiation between those two are, but it seems like every individual character is going to have their own leveling up mechanic on it. Let's move up here. Here we go. So you have your squad, looks, loadouts, talents, social. That would be your friends list and all that stuff. Battle pass and store. Already you're getting charged $70 to buy the game outright, especially if you're buying next gen and computers, PCs now these days. But they're going to be throwing in nickel and dime shit at you, hoping you buy that stuff. Now, according to many sites, once again, Video Game Chronicles, the one I'll be using, and their link is down below, their sources are saying that it is going to be cosmetic only. Whether or not that changes focus as the game gets closer to launch, who the hell knows? As all of you are aware, if you're watching this show, every single publisher out there is chasing the games as a service model. It's not just enough that they take 70 from you, or it used to be 60 from you, be 50 from you. But they want you playing it weekly. They want your little cash dollops of $5 here, $1 here and there. This is, in my opinion, one of the reasons why Darktide is being held back so much. The recent released Warhammer 4-player versus the world kind of game when you're running around blasting zombies, for lack of a better term, unless you're a big fan of the 40k lore. They're essentially zombies. They took a Left 4 Dead style game and pumped it full of this games as a service shit where you have to kind of keep coming back weekly to get your full experience from it. Everything is leaning into this and has been for quite a while. But to see something that was Arkham, right? Like Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, okay, Arkham Knight. And to see them turn it into this is so jarring that my excitement levels for the game have dropped precipitously because of it. I can tell you that right now. Another thing to note too is if you look at the numbers underneath loadout, talent, social, etc., they seem to be various currencies. Now you have your 2701, that's probably your typical in-game credits that you can earn. But then you have the 6 green things, the 0 blue things, 1 purple thing, 0 yellow things, and 0 light blue things, gray things. If I had to venture a guess, I would say that is individualized currency for every character, plus a generic catch-all currency, in my opinion, likely to be bought with real-world money. That is what I think anyways. For example, I know those numbers seem low, 6, 1, etc. They could be skill points. To be fair, they could be skill points. I don't know. When I just see it next to what looks to be a credit counter, however, my brain instantly does not look at that as skill points. It looks at it as currency. And let's call it what it is. It is their form of crypto. It is their form of crypto. That's essentially what it is. It is a non-transferable cryptocurrency. That's what the old Microsoft points are. That's what the Wii points are. Anything that you spend real-world money on to get a digital version of is essentially a cryptocurrency. It still has value. If it didn't have value, you wouldn't have to spend real-world money on it to purchase it to begin with. It's just... it leaves a sour taste in my mouth because the Arkham games are some of the best superhero games of all time, arguably one of the best Batman stories of all time. And you can even make the argument that was one of the greatest games of that generation, specifically the first and second one, Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. To see this crammed in here feels desperate. And it also, to me, lets me realize why this game is taking so long to come out. Because let's say you're someone at WB, or even at the higher end of Rocksteady, and you're talking with your publisher or you're talking with a developer, this conversation's happening, and they go, hey, we want a game as a service game. And you go, okay, no problem, let's make one. And then the loot box mechanic gets blown out of the water. It goes through multiple regulations over in Europe. There are some countries that just completely outright banned them, leading to companies like EA from selling certain games in certain countries over there. So loot box, bad idea. Take that out. We have to redesign the game now. And keep in mind, this is all just speculation. We have to redesign the game now. So what other way can we monetize this game? Oh, I know. There's that game coming out, that Avengers game that's being done. Yeah, that's going to be a big sell. Let's follow that Avengers game model and go full games of service, and where you can buy extra levels and characters and all that stuff. Avengers comes out and it bombs horrendously. Okay, now we have to redesign everything again. And now you're ending up with this battle pass system, which I would imagine would operate like it does in Halo and Destiny and Magic the Gathering Arena and every other system, or Fortnite. It's used a big one. I would not be surprised if this game was technically complete, but it kept getting pushed back because they were trying to find the right monetization system for it. Because remember, it's not enough that they just get your $70 anymore. They have to get your $70. Plus your $20 to $40 to $50 extra if you want the collector's edition. Plus the extra $20 every 3 months if you want the season pass or battle pass or whatever it is. Plus, assuming the battle pass is actually only DLC, it's a 50-50 chance whether or not DLC, sorry, cosmetics, it's a 50-50 chance whether or not they're going to charge you for extra characters again. Because the rumor is they might be adding extra villains into the game as well. Once again, rumor. This is all speculation. This is all conjecture. This screenshot isn't, by the way. I fully believe that this is real. But my rant is just conjecture. So they got your initial 70. They got your 30 to 50 bucks if you're a big fan of your collector's edition. They got your 20 a quarter. So let's just say 80 bucks a year on the battle pass. How much more can they wring out of you? And keep in mind, a lot of these games these days deliberately are designed to be grindy as hell. Because it's not just about taking every dollar they can from you. It's about making sure that your ass is in this seat, playing that game at least once a week like it was a second job, all so they can do advertising to you. That message of the day shit. Hey, log in and get your XP award. And then you click the next little thing on there and it says, hey, for $4.99, you can get the Flashpoint Captain Boomerang outfit. Or you can get the animated DC Universe Harley Quinn outfit. It's so disheartening when you see a series, and I'm still counting this as an Arkham game, by the way. My brain still has this as an Arkham game. They've gone out of their way to tie this to the Arkham universe. They've openly said it was. They brought back Kevin Conroy to record all of his voice lines before he unfortunately passed. So it is that Batman. And to see it turn into something like this, and I had a feeling this was going to be how this game went when they first announced it was going to be 4-player co-op. But you could just play it solo with 3 players as bots. But really, let's face it, they want you to do it with 3 other people at the same time. Because that's 3 more sets of eyeballs they have on it selling shit too. I hate this. I don't hate it so much that I'm just going to dismiss the game outright. There could be something cool here. I don't know. But I will say that I'm loath to lose the term hype level, but for lack of a better term, let's go with it. Hype level for this game has just plummeted. I just don't care anymore. This has gone from, when's that coming out to, when it comes out, it comes out. Because I am so tired of feeling like I am being nickeled and dimed to death by these companies. And all of that aside, all of the extra microtransactions aside, the battle pass nonsense, the games as a service shtick aside, this fucking UI is atrocious. God, this looks ugly. There's nothing unique about it. This, if you didn't see the Suicide Squad cast there, let's say you just blank out Captain Boomerang, Harley Quinn, King Shark, and Deadshot there, and you just saw the game mode, the chat to select, the banner up top, this would look like one of any 100 of other games as service games out there. There's no style to it. And that is a bigger sin in my opinion, because it's a goddamn Suicide Squad game. It should be dripping style. Instead, we get this sterile bullshit that is being forced upon us, and I hate it. I cannot stand it. Hello there, Dry. How you doing? Suicide Squad is going to be trash. That is all. I don't know if it's going to be trash, because I do think Rocksteady can still make good games. But this certainly is a big black mark against it. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below. Am I just going off on a tangent here, or is there actually something to my ranting here about how this just cheapens the game itself, in my opinion? Let me know what your take is on it down, regardless of where you're commenting at. And of course, if you like what you're seeing here and you want to support the stream, you know what streamers want. Like, spits, follow, share, subs, all that good stuff. Anyways, this isn't the only thing that we have to talk about today, though. Let's go ahead and move on to a website I have never used on this before called AltChair. Now, they are the ones that are transporting the story via Mr. Matty Plays, who mentioned it on a podcast. his Defining Duke podcast. Now, full disclosure up front, Defining Duke is part of the Last Stand Media group, and I do donate to them on Patreon, so just keep that in mind. Headline from Alt Chair. Starfield is possibly delayed out of first half of 2023, but it's still targeting a summer release, it is claimed. The official release date for Bethesda's long-awaited Starfield is currently in the first half of 2023, but there's a chance there's another small delay on the way. According to YouTuber Mr. Matty Play, Starfield might not launch in the first half of 2023. Matty Play says the following from his Defining Duke podcast, which he does with one of the Iron Lords, Lord Cognito. Starfield is getting a possible bump out of the first half because it is currently undated. Still summer, but possibly delayed out of the first half. So rather than before June, maybe July, maybe August. The YouTube Reddit, the source to reveal this information, was spot on before. This source is someone that I trust quite a bit, and they've been very correct. Nothing from that source has been wrong. I 100% believe this. This core collaborates with what I have been hearing grumbling in the background. I'm not like connected or anything like that, but this sounds lame to say, but I know people who know people. Like it's I hate saying that because it sounds like my cousin's uncle at Nintendo or something like that, but you hear scuttlebutt. And the scuttlebutt is that this game in certain parts is performing very well, and in other parts is just running atrociously. And they still haven't quite hammered that out yet. I would not be surprised if this gets delayed until, once again, November of 2023. Now, I know Todd Howard, or was it Todd Howard or was it Phil Spencer, who recently reaffirmed that this was supposed to be first half of 2023. And that is what they're shooting for. I can promise you that's what they're shooting for. But they also know they need to knock it out of the park with this one. They can't have another Fallout 76 issue. They can't have they can't even really have another Fallout 4 situation where the game just comes out as fine. It needs to be stellar. And if that means delaying it again and again and again and polishing it, then so be it. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. And there's another game that's been delayed repeatedly we'll get into later today that just needs to be canceled, in my opinion. But they need to make this thing shine. And if it's running at the rumored 30 frames per second that's going around, that is just unacceptable. Completely and totally unacceptable. And people are going to call you out on that shit. 60 frames is now just considered what should be a minimum standard for a game. And that's just one of the myriad of problems that can go wrong with Starfield. And it can't have anything go wrong. It can't. It can't be full of Bethesda jank. The audience is not as forgiving for that anymore. Especially considering that Bethesda's already kind of had some rough games released in the past few years anyways. And we've seen other companies, for example, CD Projekt Red with The Witcher 3, not Cyberpunk, The Witcher 3, do what Bethesda did, but better, in my opinion. This game has been hyped up so much, by them, by the way, that it must exceed those expectations. Or else they're really, really going to get hammered by the audience. So yes, rumor is Starfield might have been delayed out of the first half of 2023, but just into the summer. So July, August-ish. I believe it myself. That it lines up with what I'm hearing. Moving on to the next topic here. This is via Game Rant. John Carpenter may have leaked the Dead Space movie. Now, it makes sense because John Carpenter is a big, big fan of video games. He plays them still to this day. He's been involved in many a video game. The earliest thing I can think of is that he was involved in the PlayStation 2 version of The Thing, which was like a direct story sequel to the awesome 80s John Carpenter movie, The Thing. He was even in it as a cameo role in it. He has been involved in video games for a while. He has stated his love of Dead Space in the past. He has stated his desire to want to direct a Dead Space movie. But that's not what this article is actually about. This article is talking about how he might have leaked a Dead Space movie come up by inadvertently mentioning they might have had a director already attached to it. Let's go to the actual article itself from Game Rant here because I'm losing pace because my throat's drying out. Iconic horror director John Carpenter, whose notable films include Halloween, Escape from New York, and The Thing, may have accidentally leaked that a Dead Space movie is in the works. It was just last year when John Carpenter said he would like to make a Dead Space film. However, this wasn't him admitting that one was being currently made. It was more something he would hypothetically be interested in. However, Carpenter has recently spoken to Variety and may have accidentally slipped up when discussing a possible Dead Space movie. When asked about whether there was any more to say about the subject, Carpenter said he was surprised that his last remarks made about an adaptation made the rounds. He indicated that he was involved in no such projects, and then said he thinks they already have another director involved, which just there's something in the pipeline. I 100% believe that they are trying to make a Dead Space movie. I absolutely do. Video game adaptations are hot right now. Sonic movies are doing very well. Uncharted did very well. The Last of Us TV show apparently is doing supreme right now. Story on that later. And EA, since the IP has existed, has been trying to make Dead Space a multimedia franchise. When Dead Space first dropped on the scene back in 2008, you had the animated movie, you had the motion comics, you had a couple of the novels, and you had the game itself. And then they kind of supported that. They made another movie, they made a couple more comics, a couple of books. But the movie has always eluded them because it's a big, big cost endeavor to go into. But now's the time to strike if you're into it, especially with the remake coming in a couple weeks or so, a couple days at this point. So I fully believe that John Carpenter knows that they're making a Dead Space movie and that he might have unintentionally leaked it. So look forward to that. Hey there, Jiraiya. Carpenter could definitely do a Dead Space right, same way I think George A. Romero could have done Resident Evil. There is, I think, a script of George A. Romero's take on Resident Evil floating around somewhere. Kind of like how William Gibson was once attached to write Alien 3. George A. Romero, I believe, did a script treatment for the Resident Evil movie. This is before Mila Jovovich and all that came out. I don't know if it's real or not, but that's just one of those internet things I've heard of, is that there is a script for Resident Evil as a movie that Romero did. May or may not be true. But yeah, I agree. I think Carpenter could have made an excellent Dead Space movie. However, I also get why EA would shy away from Carpenter directing a Dead Space movie, because as legendary as this man is, last few movies have been rough, to say the least. He will always be fondly remembered for In the Mouth of Madness, The Thing, They Live, Big Trouble in Little China. But he also did Ghosts of Mars. So I can see why EA might be hesitant to bring him in for it. Either way, I do think that him being a fan of the video game itself and just video games in general, I think he would be an excellent director for a Dead Space movie, because he knows the source material and he knows how games work, and he can bring that stuff to a movie. You'd imagine to be able to. As far as who I might want to see directing this movie, I couldn't even begin to tell you who I'd like to see in it, because it's not just a horror movie, but it's also an action movie as well. It would have to be a little bit of both. I hope it would lean more into horror, but you would also have to have like a good dose of action. And that line to walk is very hard to do. And I can't think of anyone currently who would be available to do such a thing. Moving on from Eurogamer for this next story. Beyond Good and Evil 2 still in development, Ubisoft insists. Why? Just cancel it. This game's been in development for over 15 years right now, and I don't think anyone really wanted it to begin with. Other than the small segment of people that loved Beyond Good and Evil, but let's face it, that was a very, very tiny portion of gaming, because that game really didn't sell all that well. There's a lot of people who say they love Beyond Good and Evil who never even played Beyond Good and Evil because they just want to be part of that hipster trendy crowd. In my opinion. Let's go to the article itself here. The long-awaited but still nebulous Beyond Good and Evil 2 remains in development at Ubisoft despite last week's round of game cancellations. 3 unannounced Ubisoft games were canned last week on top of the 4 ditched last July. The latest cancellations follow a round of poor financial results and concern over the company's future portfolio, something which has also battled Ubisoft's stock price. Ubisoft is in major trouble, by the way. This is now 7 games that they canceled in just over 7 or 8 months. They have really nothing coming out major on the horizon. You have some big stuff by on the horizon, I mean within the next 6 months that I can think of. You do have that Avatar game coming out eventually. You have whatever they're working on with Rainbow Six. You have rumors of a Splinter Cell game. You have Skull and Bones, which I think the only reason why that hasn't been delayed is because I believe they've made a partnership with, is it Thailand that's working on it? I think they have a partnership with another company to help kind of get tax write-offs on the development of that game in their country. I didn't research it before I started this. I apologize. You have this essentially vaporware game, despite their insistence on continuing making it. And then you have the Prince of Persia remake, which is also just nowhere to be seen. On top of that, you have many dead franchises Ubisoft that's just been sleeping on for years, like Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell. There is that rumored Division Heartland game, but who the hell knows when that's coming out. This is a company in trouble. The rumor is, too, going around, is that Ubisoft has approached multiple people for a buyout, and they were just all laughed out of the room. No one wants the bloat that is Ubisoft, and it is bloat. They have multiple development studios scattered across the world. There's no centralized work structure for any of it, which is why you have these credits at the end of Ubisoft games that are in the hundreds of people long with like 10 different studios working on them. There is no centralized control mechanism to guide these games along, which is one of the reasons I think that they're all just having problems everywhere. It is a major issue at the top when it comes to management. And all of that aside, you have the myriad of allegations against them, from hostile workplace environments to various sexual harassment claims throughout there. Ubisoft is a train wreck, and no one wants to be involved with them right now. Back to the article. Ubisoft's statement on the matter admitted it would continue on with increased cautiousness over the coming years as the game industry shifts towards mega brands and long-lasting titles, something which raises questions as to whether Beyond Good and Evil 2 fitted in. An Ubisoft spokesperson today ended up saying the following: Beyond Good and Evil 2 development is underway and the team is hard at work to deliver on its ambitious promise. End quote. I get the feeling that someone behind the scenes somewhere is saying, we've spent too much money to cancel this. We are going to drag it across the finish line kicking and screaming. Beyond Good and Evil 2 holds the record for the longest development period for a major video game, having been originally announced more than 15 years ago and repeatedly slipped in and out of active development since. At E3 2017, a fresh CGI trailer for the title trumpeted a new phase of development with semi-regular updates in the game's creator Michel Ancel over the next year. Ubisoft recommitted to the project again when Ancel left the company in 2020, despite questions over the state of the game had been. Now, 2.5 years later, Ubisoft has once again gone quiet. The last public update came in August of last year as former Blizzard narrative designer Sarah Aliano joined the project as lead writer. I know there is that saying that is attributed to Miyamoto, and I'm paraphrasing here, that says a rushed game is bad, or hold on, a delayed game is good eventually, but a rushed game is bad forever. Not necessarily true. I don't care how many times you delayed Duke Nukem Forever, that game was always going to be bad. Sometimes you have to know when to cut bait, and Beyond Good and Evil 2 is one of those games. I hate to say it, but uh, who even cares about this goddamn game? We don't even know what the game is. We have some teases of space monkeys, rebels, and a solar system. Okay, what's the gameplay? What's the overall narrative? What's propelling the story along? What engine is it running on? We have no answers as to it, which just shows you how far along it is before it's even going to come out, because they're not even at the point where they can tell us how the game is going to play yet. This is doomed. And it is someone's pet project somewhere, and they are hell-bent on dragging across the finish line. And I don't even know if it's going to be good when it comes out because of it. It has gone through such a turbulent development cycle that I have a hard time seeing that this is going to even come close to being worth your money. But hey, what do I know? Moving on, a couple quick stories here. First up, it looks like The Last of Us is doing very well. The TV show on HBO, that is. This is via Forbes. Last of Us marks HBO's second largest debut in more than a decade, topped only by House of the Dragon. HBO's new series, The Last of Us, drew 4.7 million viewers in during its Sunday night premiere, making the zombie third of the network's second largest debut since 2010, behind only last year's House of the Dragon. HBO then also noted that Sunday night premiere typically represents only 20 and 40% of the show's total audience per episode, since viewers catch up streaming or on demand. In-game The Last of Us audience is expected to grow as the season progresses. Congrats, that premiere episode was rated very, very well. I'll sit down and watch it one day. I don't have any pressing need to see it because I played the game. I know how the story goes. But good to see that is doing well. In a source that I don't use all that often, but I think I have once before, this is South China Morning Post. NetEase team handling Blizzard games in China dissolves their 14-year partnership. Long story short, without going into the details of this, if you want to publish a game in China, you have to go through a Chinese company. Blizzard, popular games in China, can't just self-publish in China. They have to go through a Chinese front company, essentially. They were using NetEase for the longest time. NetEase is up there 10 cent, by the way, as far as companies go on their ties to the CCP. So be aware, you should be as afraid of NetEase as you are of 10 cent. Blizzard and NetEase could not come to a publishing agreement, and so they terminated their contract. The Chinese video game giant NetEase is expanding the local team responsible for the operating titles licensed from the U.S. game publisher Blizzard Entertainment, according to 3 people familiar with the matter, as the two parties end one of the largest and most profitable enduring U.S.-China business partnerships in the world. The Shanghai-based unit under Shanghai EaseNet Network Technology, an affiliate of NetEase, China's second largest video game company by revenue, has laid off or arranged internal transfers for most of its staff, according to sources declined to be named as the information is private. They did not immediately respond to request. The team was already pretty scaled back because we knew this was coming. No more than 100 people before it was dissolved, and most of the team was left once it became clear in November that NetEase and Blizzard were no longer renewing their 14 licensing agreement. The online services to 7 related Blizzard titles, World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Overwatch, Diablo 3, StarCraft 2, and Warcraft 3 Reforged, and Heroes of the Storm, will be suspended in mainland China on the day after. One Blizzard game, Diablo Immortal, however, will continue on. That's because the Diablo Immortal agreement was separate with NetEase from the previous mentioned 7 Blizzard titles earlier. They inked a different deal for Diablo Immortal. Maybe because it was on phones. I don't know. The team that runs that game, which is based in NetEase's headquarters in Hangzhou, was unaffected by the job cuts, by the way. So, before you might consider yourself that Blizzard has done a good job separating from China here, understand that they have not. Blizzard is going to get in bed with someone to publish their games in China. They're not just going to let that market go untapped. It makes up way too much of their revenue to ignore the Chinese market. So they will come to an agreement. if not with NetEase and maybe with Tencent or any number of Chinese companies out there, to publish these games in China. Blizzard is not terminating their contract with NetEase out of the goodness of their own heart. They're doing it because they want a bigger piece of the pie, or maybe some more guarantees that their code isn't going to get stolen, because China tech firms in general aren't the most ethical when it comes to using stolen proprietary software. Hey there, Morathon. How you doing? Good to have you. Thank you very much. I wanted to bring this up just because I don't want people thinking that Blizzard is doing good here. They're not. They'll be right back in bed with that CCP dollar or yen or yuan. I wonder if Chinese use yuan. Don't know. Not the yen though. That's Japan. They'll be right back in bed with the CCP before you know it, finding some way to bring all their games over. So don't think that they're just walking away from this. Too lucrative market for them. Hard jump to a new story right here. This is via Games Radar. Metal Gear voice actor hints at new announcements in the coming weeks with not so subtle teasing. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance actor is seemingly hinting at news relating to the dormant franchise in the coming weeks. Earlier today, on January 17th, actor Quentin Flynn used his personal Twitter account to respond to speculation about the forthcoming Metal Gear news. They have that right here, actually. Someone asked, perhaps a Metal Gear Rising 2 along with the rest of the upcoming Metal Gear showcase just might make it, to which Quentin Flynn, who is the voice of Raider, said, hey, stay tuned to things being announced. He knows something. He's very clearly teasing something. Will it be Metal Gear Rising 2? Probably not. I get the feeling that it is, if anything, might be like yet another remastering of the game. No idea. Oh, it is the Yawn. Okay, that's what I thought. No idea what this might be. The only reason why I'm not giving this any credence at all, even though it's one of the voice actors mentioning it, is because there have been so many rumors about Metal Gear with remakes of all three of the Metal Gear Solids 1, 2, and 3. An HD version of Snake Eater specifically has been bandied about. Sony getting the rights to Metal Gear from Konami. There are so many rumors of varying degrees of believability from not only like fringe conspiracy theorists saying, oh, this is happening, trust me, I know a guy at Nintendo kind of level shit, to actual people with credible backgrounds, and none of them have come true. Or at least not yet. Not true yet. Do I think something Metal Gear is being worked on? Of course I do. It's Metal Gear. There's no way Konami's just going to let that franchise sit and stagnate. Do we have any idea what it is? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if all those rumors at one time were true and Konami just canceled them and went in a different direction, or decided not to follow through with it, or gave it off to someone else, or it changed scope over time. Who the hell knows when it comes to this series? And honestly, much like Silent Hill, I'll believe it when I have it in my hands at this point. I still don't even know if all those Silent Hill games Konami announced a couple weeks ago are even coming. I wouldn't be surprised if the axe gets dropped on all of them, or some of them, or none of them. Once again, when it comes to Konami, who the hell knows? They have to prove to me they're actually making a game before I believe that they're making a game. Anyways, if you're hyped for any potential Metal Gear Revengeance news, let me know, please. It's a solid game, by the way. I don't think it's that bad. I just don't get the meminess of it. Actually, I do understand the meminess of it, but that series, Metal Gear Rising specifically, has an oddly hardcore fan base. It's small, but it's there, and I don't think I understand it. All right, last story of the week via Reuters. Saudi Arabia's wealth fund raises its stake in Nintendo to 6%. Really not much more to say here. It's just Saudi Arabia Public Interest Fund is buying more of Nintendo up. They now own 6% of Nintendo. That sucks. I have gone off about my reservations about all these horrendous entities and countries getting involved in gaming. China with NetEase and Tencent. Now Saudi Arabia with their PIF fund. Saudi Arabia being a horrendously backwards country, by the way, much like the CCP, where they just do horrible, horrible things to humanity in general in those countries. And it sucks to know that both of these places are just getting more and more invested in gaming. And there's really not much you can do about it. Other than stop playing all Nintendo games, stop playing all Sony games, stop playing all Xbox games. I mean, maybe eventually that'll be what it takes, but you have to make those decisions on your own. Like, where do you personally draw a line of morality for it? And I can't give you any advice on it because I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to still play Nintendo games, to be quite honest with you. But it's still one of those things that you hear and it sucks. It's just like, God damn it. And you start gnashing your teeth and wishing that things were a little bit different. But they're not going to be in this case. That's not me trying to be black-pilled or anything like that. That's just it's just being realistic. And hopefully, the more that these companies invest in publishers and in studios, the more people start talking about the abuses that happen in Saudi Arabia, in China, in all these places that are heavily, heavily invested in our hobby. That's my positive takeaway from it, is that as these funds take more and more ownership of the companies whose product we enjoy, we start talking about them more and more of a frank matter, and it starts bringing pressure upon not only them, but upon anyone who might be wanting to do business with them. We need to bring back a level of shame to some degree, so that if Nintendo, in this case, is going to be 6% owned by Saudi Arabia, then they're going to be ashamed of that fact. If Ubisoft is going to deal a deal with Tencent, then they need to be ashamed of that fact. There's really not much I can say, but I've gone off on both of these topics in the past, specifically Saudi Arabia, specifically Tencent. And I don't see necessarily a way out of it. And that is what it is. Not to end the show on a down note, but there it is. And that kind of does it for the news. Let's go ahead and move on to new releases this week. We do have a few of them coming out, including a couple of big ones that I am looking forward to. First up, Surviving the Abyss enters early access on the PC. Earth 1976. You have been tasked with managing a deep-sea science facility working to perfect cloning. Explore the darkness and keep your crew alive in this hardcore survivor colony, but beware. The darkness hides untold horrors. This is from the same series that does Surviving Mars and Surviving the Aftermath. I'm looking forward to this. It is an underwater city builder, kind of a little bit like Aquatico, which came out last week. Funny how both of those games drop at the same time. I do want to take a look at this. It just dropped in early access. I don't know if I'm going to wait a couple months before getting it, or if I get it sooner or later. I tend to wait until the game is launched, but every now and then an early access game sucks me in right when it comes out, and this seems to be one of them. Also out in early access this week, Definitely Not Fried Chicken on the PC. Definitely Not Fried Chicken is a business handwritten sim with a twist. Grow your drugs trade through legitimate fronts by managing both sides of the business. Acquire new businesses, meet clientele, develop more potent narcotics, and make a lot of money and leave a city in ruin. This is very clearly inspired by Breaking Bad, with the Gus Fring's Los Polo Hermanos, or whatever chicken franchise that he ran. This is clearly meant to be parodying that. However, I like a business management sim. I like a drug trading sim. Combine them both together, I can't see why I wouldn't hate this. Or why I wouldn't love this, rather. It is in early access, however, and as I've already touched upon, early access games tend to not get my attention until they're fully out. Also out this week, the ports of Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Series X, and Nintendo Switch. It's Persona. You know what Persona is? It's Persona. Hardcore JRPG where you take the role of a Japanese high school student and you either solve murders or figure out why people turn to coffins after midnight, or any myriad of really fucked up shit kids should not be dealing with. I love these games, by the way. I absolutely love the combination of JRPG and slice of life style visual novel. I am a sucker for it. I get that makes me a total weeb. So be it. Also, in the weebiness scale coming out this week, Fire Emblem Engage comes out to the Switch. In a war against the Fell Dragon, the four kingdoms work together with the heroes to form other worlds to stay away this great evil. 1,000 years later, the still is weakened and the Fell Dragon is about to awaken. As a divine dragon, use rich strategies and robust customization to meet your destiny, to collect 12 emblem rings, and bring back peace to the continent of Ilos. Fire Emblem, turn-based strategy game, really took off with Fire Emblem Three Houses on the Switch. That's really what catapulted it to the forefront. Although it has been steadily growing over the past few years, this is a very old IP. Its roots go all the way back, I believe, to Super Nintendo, if not earlier than that. Was Fire Emblem on Nintendo? Okay, I gotta look this up now. Was Fire Emblem on Nintendo? Is that where it started at? On the old Famicom? I think it did. Trying to find it right here. Started in 1990 on the Famicom. Yeah, so this goes all the way back to the old Nintendo days. But it has just now recently become popular in America, so I'm glad to see it coming along. I love the Fire Emblem games. I really enjoy them. Three Houses by far is, I don't want to say by far, but was a great game. I'm going to be missing the little stupid schoolroom elements of it because, as I've already established, I like the slice of life shit. I'm hoping we get some of that in this new one. I am disconnected from looking at media on Fire Emblem Engage. I don't need to see any more on it. I know I'm going to pick it up and I'm probably going to enjoy it, but I kind of hope it keeps some of what Three Houses brought to the table. Definitely looking forward to it. Let's take a look at chat here. Awakening revived the franchise. Three Houses stoked the embers. Yes. Awakening was on the DS or the 3DS. I can't remember which one. But it really didn't get mainstream attention until Three Houses, in my opinion on it. Kind of like how Persona 3 kind of took that franchise, made it more digestible. Persona 4 made it a little bit more of an eye catcher, and then Persona 5 blew the hinges off. Similar idea. Oh, Fates followed up Awakening. Awakening, is that the one when you could have, like, you would pair up with someone and then your kid from the future would come back? Was that Awakening? I think Fates was the one with the... Okay, that was Awakening. Fates was the one with the kid who was adopted, and he had to pick between his adopted family and his real family. I think. Oh, Fates did it as well. Okay, didn't know that. I never finished Fates. I finished Awakening, but I never finished Fates. I should. I have it somewhere. Anyways, that does it for new releases, and that does it for the show as well. This has been GamePoints episode 341. We do stream this live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. over at twitch.tv/GamePoints, as I forget where I'm streaming on. But if you can't watch us live, totally understandable. This goes up on any myriad of video hosting platforms, be it YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, etc. You can follow myself at CapitalistPig21 on Twitter. There's also a Discord you can join down below. I do stream throughout the week as well. Tomorrow I might take a look at that Surviving the Abyss. Not 100% certain on that yet, but it's definitely on the short list. Hope to see you all then. However, until then, you all stay safe. Take care. I'm out of here.